She was just 22, chasing a dream in Hollywood, but what she found instead was death. This is the story of Elizabeth Short, the woman who would become known as the Black Dahlia, and whose murder still haunts Los Angeles over 70 years later. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924, in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. She was the youngest of 5 daughters in a family that faced hardship early on. Her father left the family, and her mother struggled to raise the children while working long hours. Despite this, Elizabeth's personality shone, outgoing, ambitious, and strikingly beautiful even as a teenager. By her late teens, Elizabeth had moved several times with her family, eventually settling in California. She developed a fascination with Hollywood, the glitz, the glamour, the promise of fame. Like many young women of her era, she dreamed of seeing her name in lights, walking red carpets, and becoming a starlet. But in chasing Hollywood's promise, Elizabeth was stepping into a city filled with shadows, and not all dreams survive the darkness. Elizabeth had a magnetic personality, confident, stylish, and friendly. She often wore black clothing, which added to her allure and later contributed to her famous nickname, the Black Dahlia. She spent her days socializing, attending parties, and pursuing small acting roles, but opportunities were limited, and the city could be unforgiving for young women alone. Despite her charm, Elizabeth's personal life was turbulent. Relationships with men were often fleeting, and rumors of romances swirled through Hollywood circles. She was ambitious but vulnerable, a combination that some say made her a target in a city where appearances could be deadly. It wasn't just her dreams that were at risk, it was her life. By 1946, Elizabeth had moved into Hollywood proper, taking on various jobs to survive. She worked as a waitress, a receptionist, and sometimes performed in small theater productions. Her ambition was relentless. Friends described her as vivacious, always talking about the future, yet there was a certain naivety in her trust of strangers. Los Angeles in the 1940s was a city of contradictions. The film industry promised stardom and glamour, yet beneath the bright lights, crime, corruption, and exploitation thrived. Many young women arrived full of hope, only to find themselves lost in a maze of dangerous opportunities and hidden predators. Elizabeth Short was not just another hopeful starlet. She was a young woman navigating a city that could turn deadly in an instant. Friends and acquaintances remembered Elizabeth for her charm and determination. She had big dreams and a larger-than-life presence. Yet, even as she chased fame, the cracks of vulnerability were visible, small decisions that may have unknowingly put her in the path of a killer. Elizabeth Short's life was brief, beautiful, and full of promise. But within the shadows of Hollywood, a darkness was waiting. A darkness that would turn her dreams into a nightmare and make her a name the world would never forget. January 15th, 1947. A passerby walking through a quiet Los Angeles lot noticed something unusual. At first, it looked like a discarded mannequin, but it wasn't. It was a young woman brutally murdered. Her name? Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. The scene was horrifying. Elizabeth's body had been severed at the waist, her limbs arranged neatly, her face carefully positioned. She had been drained of blood, the cuts so precise that investigators speculated a surgical hand. Even seasoned officers were shaken by the meticulous brutality. Who could commit such a crime, and why would they leave the body on display? The police cordoned off the area, but the news spread quickly. Reporters arrived within hours, their cameras flashing, typewriters clattering as they typed the first shocking headlines. Los Angeles, a city used to glamour, was suddenly confronted with an unimaginable horror. Detectives began documenting every detail. They noted the body had been meticulously cleaned. No blood was found at the scene, suggesting the murder occurred elsewhere. No personal items were missing, which ruled out robbery as a motive. This level of precision fueled theories that the killer may have had medical knowledge, and the crime scene's presentation seemed almost ritualistic, designed to shock and horrify. The question wasn't just who killed her, but how someone could commit such a crime with such calm and calculation. As the story hit the press, the public reaction was intense. Crowds gathered near the lot, curious and horrified. Gossip and speculation ran rampant. Who had the power, skill, and audacity to kill this young woman and display her like a message? Every day, more questions arose than answers, and Los Angeles would never forget that January morning. Police interviewed anyone who might have seen Elizabeth before her death. Witnesses described her as cheerful, outgoing, and ambitious. The girl everyone thought of as friendly and approachable. But no one saw her last moments, and there were no clear leads. The media's coverage added fuel to the fire. The nickname Black Dahlia was coined by a reporter referencing her black attire and the popular film The Blue Dahlia. Overnight, Elizabeth became a symbol of Hollywood's dark underbelly, a glamorous city hiding danger behind its bright lights. Her story, her life, and her death would be dissected for decades, but would the killer ever be found? The initial investigation yielded little. There were no fingerprints, no murder weapon, and no reliable eyewitnesses. Investigators were forced to rely on interviews, circumstantial evidence, and gut instinct. Meanwhile, the city remained on edge, knowing that a dangerous predator might still be at large. As days turned into weeks, dozens of suspects emerged. Friends, lovers, neighbors, and strangers all came under scrutiny. Every theory was explored, yet the trail went cold again and again. Elizabeth's murder became a puzzle without a solution, each piece more baffling than the last. The city was obsessed, the police were frustrated, and one question remained. Who had the skill, the courage, and the cruelty to commit the Black Dahlia murder? The discovery of Elizabeth Short's body shocked a nation and launched one of the largest investigations in Los Angeles history. But as the press clamored for answers and detectives dug deeper, the Black Dahlia's killer remained elusive, waiting in the shadows. Elizabeth Short's body had been found, and Los Angeles was in shock. But finding her killer would prove to be a challenge unlike anything the LAPD had ever faced. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, and a crime scene so meticulously staged it seemed almost impossible to solve. The LAPD immediately launched a massive investigation. Detectives canvassed neighborhoods, interviewed Elizabeth's friends, acquaintances, and former lovers, and followed every tip, no matter how small. Officers worked long hours in offices stacked with case files, evidence photos, and notes that grew by the day. But the more they dug, the more the case seemed to slip through their fingers like smoke in the night. Detectives quickly realized that Elizabeth's murder was not a crime of passion or impulse. The precision of the mutilation, the removal of blood, and the careful staging suggested someone with experience, planning, and skill. The investigation became one of the largest and most complex in LAPD history. The media immediately seized the story. Newspapers across the country published sensational headlines, giving Elizabeth the nickname the Black Dahlia overnight. Hollywood, a city built on illusion and glamour, now found itself facing its darkest reality. Every headline, every photo, every rumor added pressure. Not just on the police, but on a city desperate for answers. Detectives began compiling a list of over 150 suspects, ranging from acquaintances and neighbors to strangers with criminal records. They interviewed men who had dated Elizabeth, colleagues who had seen her in the days before her death, and anyone who had been in the area of the vacant lot. Among the early suspects was Leslie Dillon, a bellhop who allegedly confessed to acquaintances. Another was Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner rumored to have known Elizabeth socially. The case also drew attention to Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy physician with alleged ties to the crime's surgical precision. Each suspect added new layers of intrigue, but none could be conclusively tied to the murder. Each suspect seemed credible, yet the killer remained one step ahead, invisible in the shadows. Police also faced challenges due to forensic limitations of the 1940s. Fingerprinting was slow, DNA evidence was non-existent, and much of the evidence collected could be compromised. Officers relied heavily on witness testimony, confessions, and circumstantial evidence, all of which led to dead ends. The public became obsessed. Amateur detectives, journalists, and rumor-mongers flooded the police with tips. Some were credible, most were wild theories. Letters arrived daily from people claiming knowledge of the killer, but no evidence ever panned out. In a city of dreams, the truth seemed impossible to catch, and the Black Dahlia's shadow only grew. Despite the pressure, the LAPD continued to follow every lead. They re-interviewed witnesses, scoured crime scenes for overlooked clues, and even involved outside experts in attempts to solve the case. But each new investigation revealed just how cunning the killer had been. The case became a citywide obsession, blending true crime and Hollywood myth. For weeks, no one knew if the killer was still active or watching from the shadows. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's story gripped the nation, a reminder of vulnerability, ambition, and the darkness lurking beneath glamour. Whoever killed Elizabeth Short left a mark not just on the city, but on history itself. And the investigation was only just beginning. Elizabeth Short's murder had shaken Los Angeles to its core. But the bigger question remained: who could commit such a brutal and precise crime? Over the years, investigators and amateur sleuths have debated suspects, from doctors to bellhops to Hollywood insiders. Tonight, we dive deep into the people who haunted this case for decades. One of the most compelling suspects was Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy and respected physician with a dark personal life. Hodel was known to have a medical background capable of making the precise cut seen on Elizabeth's body. In later decades, his own son publicly accused him of being the Black Dahlia killer. Hodel had been investigated by the LAPD in connection to other crimes, including allegations of sexual abuse. Yet he was never charged for Elizabeth's murder. Could a man of privilege and knowledge commit a crime so meticulously and evade justice entirely? Another suspect was Leslie Dillon, a bellhop and aspiring mortician. Dillon allegedly confessed to acquaintances that he had committed a murder matching Elizabeth's case. While his confessions were inconsistent and unverifiable, police considered him a serious person of interest. He had access to anatomical knowledge, and his behavior raised suspicions, but concrete evidence tying him to the crime was lacking. Was Dillon a killer seeking attention, or a man falsely accused in a city desperate for answers? Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner with ties to Hollywood's social scene, was also scrutinized. Elizabeth had reportedly socialized in venues connected to Hansen. Some theories suggest he knew individuals involved in the crime, or may have unwittingly exposed Elizabeth to danger. While never formally charged, his connection to the Hollywood nightlife added a layer of intrigue to the case. Could a man in the shadows of Hollywood have influenced the deadly path Elizabeth walked? Other suspects included friends and acquaintances who had brief relationships with Elizabeth. Each presented a possible motive: jealousy, anger, or obsession. The problem for police was that each lead seemed credible in theory, but lacked corroborating evidence. Every suspect was plausible, yet the killer remained unseen, one step ahead of the law. Investigators also explore the possibility of a serial offender, someone who had killed before and might kill again. The surgical precision of the crime, combined with the stage presentation of the body, suggested premeditation and experience. Yet, no prior crime definitively matched the pattern, leaving detectives frustrated and the public terrified. Was Elizabeth's killer a professional, or simply a calculating amateur with a terrifying talent for murder? Over the years, amateur detectives and writers have offered countless theories. Some point to police corruption, suggesting that influential figures might have covered up leads to protect certain individuals. Others believe the killer was a stranger who vanished into anonymity, leaving only Elizabeth's gruesome death as evidence of their existence. Could the truth be hidden in plain sight, or was it buried forever with Elizabeth herself? Even modern investigators have revisited Hodel and other suspects using forensic technology. Yet, decades of time, lost evidence, and conflicting testimonies have kept the Black Dahlia case unsolved. Every lead raises questions, every suspect fuels debate, but the killer's identity remains elusive. Perhaps the most chilling fact of all is that the Black Dahlia killer may have walked freely, knowing no one would ever catch them. The suspect haunted the case not just for investigators, but for the public imagination. The media's obsession turned Elizabeth into a symbol, a young woman whose life, ambition, and death became inseparable from the mystery itself. Each theory added fuel to the legend, and each suspect deepened the sense of unresolved terror. And even today, the debate continues. Who killed the Black Dahlia, and why did they vanish without a trace? Elizabeth Short's murder exposed a darkness within Los Angeles. A darkness filled with suspects, theories, and unanswered questions. And as the city moved on, her killer remained hidden, haunting not just the streets, but the imagination of everyone who hears her story. Elizabeth Short's murder remains one of America's most infamous unsolved cases. Over the decades, her death has inspired theories, legends, and a fascination that refuses to fade. But beyond the headlines and suspects lies a city grappling with its own secrets and a story that still haunts Hollywood. From the beginning, the media played a major role in shaping Elizabeth's story. Reporters sensationalized details, gave her the nickname Black Dahlia, and created a narrative that blurred the line between fact and fiction. While this coverage kept public attention high, it also complicated the investigation, spreading rumors and false leads. Did the press help solve the case, or bury the truth beneath sensational headlines? Investigators faced allegations of corruption and incompetence. Some theories suggest that influential figures, possibly connected to Hollywood elites, obstructed the investigation. Others argue that bureaucratic inefficiency, combined with a lack of forensic technology, ensured that the killer could evade capture. Could someone powerful have protected the Black Dahlia killer, letting them vanish into the shadows? Over time, dozens of theories emerged. Some claimed a serial killer was responsible. Others suggested personal revenge, romantic jealousy, or a crime of opportunity. Amateur investigators pored over evidence, while authors published books exploring every angle, from police corruption to occult symbolism in the murder scene. The Black Dahlia's death also became a template for Hollywood storytelling. Films, novels, and documentaries retold the case, blending fact and fiction. Each retelling increased public fascination, cementing Elizabeth's place as both a victim and a symbol of Hollywood's darker side. Her life and death became inseparable from myth, a story both real and imagined. Even modern forensic advancements have failed to definitively solve the case. Decades-old DNA testing, handwriting analysis, and other technologies have been applied to letters and evidence, yet the killer's identity remains unknown. The mystery persists, tantalizing investigators and true crime enthusiasts alike. Elizabeth's legacy extends beyond her death. She is remembered as a young woman with ambition, charm, and dreams cut short. Her story continues to caution, fascinate, and inspire. Each theory, book, and documentary keeps the memory alive, reminding us that some crimes leave marks not just on victims, but on an entire city. Perhaps the most haunting truth is this: the Black Dahlia story isn't just about a killer. It's about the city that let her fall through the cracks. Over the years, countless investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths have tried to piece together the puzzle. From Dr. George Hodel to Leslie Dillon, every suspect has been scrutinized, every theory debated. And yet, the Black Dahlia case remains a symbol of unresolved evil, a reminder that some mysteries defy closure. The city, the press, the investigators, none could catch the killer. And Elizabeth Short's story became legend, a dark reflection of ambition, danger, and the unknown lurking in the shadows. Elizabeth Short came to Hollywood chasing dreams. She found fame, but only after death. Her life, her murder, and a mystery that surrounds it continue to captivate, terrify, and haunt, proving that some stories never truly end. If you enjoy this, subscribe, like, and comment for more.